models at her new job. She instead found predators. So what they're basically doing is they're using the Amy Roebuck, TJ Holmes playbook, and
Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another video. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right. So what we are talking about is Tennessee cop Maegan Super Freak Hall, okay? And I don't know if you guys saw the live streams that I did about this particular individual, but the information about this woman, if that's what you want to call her, came out about a month ago. All right. And just to sum up the story, basically what happened was this woman was just busting it open all over the place. All right. She is wild. You know what I'm saying? And she was getting busy, you know what I'm saying, when it came to her police precinct with her male co-workers, and in some cases their wives. All right. Now, according to the Daily Mail and according to the New York Post, Maegan Hall was married to an individual. She still is. And it said that they were swingers. Okay. So these people are known freaks. Okay. An article recently came out that said that her and her husband are going to, quote unquote, try to make things work. Now, if your woman has been passed around by 8 dudes unapologetically, I don't know how you could possibly make things work unless you are the worst of the worst serial simp. You know what I'm saying? And apparently that's what her husband is. And in my commentaries on that, if you guys go back and watch them, which I would recommend that you do because they're dope, I alluded to the fact that if this were to work out and if she was to attempt to reconcile her marriage and make this work, she's going to go back and get these guys in trouble and say that she was taken advantage of. She's going to do the whole damaged Karen thing. Guess what? Here we are, February 28th, 2023, an article comes out. Tennessee cop Maegan Hall claims she was sexually groomed in a new lawsuit. Now, you're a freak. You're a swinger. You busted it open all over the place for the police precinct, and you tried to bust it open with somebody's wife at one point. Now you want to sit up here and talk about you was groomed? You were not groomed, okay? Nothing happened to you. But interestingly enough, the black guy named Powell, all right, which is the guy that she really liked, like that's the guy that she just couldn't stop messing with. Apparently, according to her, he's quote unquote the one that groomed her. Now, if you ask me, he did not groom her at all. There's a bunch of black male haters out here that will make black male hate content and say this is what these black men do. We all know this, right? However, first of all, I don't agree with that. Second of all, if you go back and read the articles, this individual, Maegan Hall, was going around bragging about messing with this guy and talking about his equipment. And I'm not talking about his standard issue gun, to the entire department. All right. That was actually happening. All right. And she also said that this guy was, quote unquote, a friend to her. So now, if you ask me, what's actually happening is that she's throwing this guy under the bus because she probably has some kind of pressure from her. And as you can tell, I mean, any woman who would just bust it open all over the place just at will is a very weak person. This woman is a very weak person. You know what I'm saying? So she's going to throw her homeboy Powell under the bus because he's the easiest to get in trouble because he was one of the ones that was in a supervisory position. Okay. So now here it says Tennessee cop fired over her numerous sexual romps with other officers, claims in a new federal lawsuit that superiors in her department, quote unquote, sexually groomed her for the risque escapades. So now here's my question. What about all the risque sexual escapades before this? Who groomed you for all of that? You know what I'm saying? Maegan Hall, who's 26, blamed a troubled marriage for her randy affairs, claimed she felt trapped and even exploited in the midst of the all-male ranks of the Lavargue Police Department, according to her 51-page federal complaint filed on Monday. Where Miss Hall sought role models at her new job, she instead found predators. So what they're basically doing is they're using the Amy Roebuck, TJ Holmes playbook, and what you have here is a PC woman who was acting up, but somehow it's not her fault. She was a predator, despite the fact that nobody else was a swinger. Nobody else was busting everybody else open at the police department. It was literally only her that was engaging in this kind of behavior, but somehow she's the victim here. You know what I'm saying? The lawsuit says in the place offering professional development, her supervisors and the chief of police groomed her for sexual exploitation. They colluded in using their authority to systematically disarm her resistance and entrap her in degrading and abusive sexual relationships, even sharing tips on the best ways to manipulate and exploit her. The suit claims Hall, who had a history of mental illness, so now we're going to blame it on the mental illness, felt trapped, and in an attempt to escape, she nearly killed herself. Hall was fired in January after word of the steamy sexcapades with 5 other cops became public, with those officers also terminated from the department. In an interview during the internal investigation, the young cop admitted she performed sex acts on duty and on police property and had a threesome with one cop and his wife. Hall told the investigator she got stupid and got desperate in the midst of a divorce. In a federal lawsuit, Hall, who was 24, she first applied for a job on the force in 2020, claims she first became sexually involved with Sergeant Lewis Powell early last year. So that's Powell right there, okay? Sergeant Powell learned that Miss Hall was going through the process of buying a home with her husband and that this process was extremely taxing on their relationship, the lawsuit said. Sergeant Powell positioned himself as a reliable source of companionship and advice regarding Mrs. Hall's career and her marriage. Sergeant Powell persisted in requests for sex despite Mrs. Hall's resistance. If Sergeant Powell was persisting for requests and sex despite Megan's resistance, she sure as hell wasn't resisting anybody else because she was busting it open for everybody at the station. But here's the problem. Powell is a black man. Maegan Hall is a white woman. And by default, population at large, as well as a large majority of people like us, are literally programmed to believe and not pay attention to patterns and automatically make sure that we go along with the narrative that the black man is always guilty. This woman is a freak. She has pattern freak behavior. You know what I'm saying? Sergeant Powell was probably just banging something that was available, despite the fact that he shouldn't have been doing that because he was married. You know what I'm saying? That's no excuse. He doesn't get a pass. You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to violate your marriage vows. But Sergeant Powell would have probably done the same thing if he was single, simply because she was a woman available there to be plowed. You know what I'm saying? And I don't believe that Powell really took a lot of effort to get sex from this strawberry right here. I just don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, eventually Hall gave in to Sergeant Powell's request for sexual favors. So then what happened to where she started going around the police department bragging about Sergeant Powell's equipment? You know what I'm saying? She said when she tried to break off the affair, Powell threatened to kill himself. Well, because it's just that good. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because Maegan Hall's cookies are just that good that if she cuts him off, he just can't handle life anymore. Man, stop it with that nonsense. Despite the fact that it was her that was going around bragging about what he was doing to her and his equipment, and there's not really any testimony in those internal affairs recordings about anybody bragging about Maegan Hall. You know what I'm saying? She said when she tried to break off the affair, Powell threatened to kill himself. This is what she said. Hall said the exploitive sexual relationship with Powell led to other sexual encounters involving other Lavarge cops: Larry Holiday, Patrick Malagio, Ty Gowan, Juan Lugo Perez, Gavin Shogner, and Detective Seneca Shields. Powell, Lugo Perez, McGowan, and Shields were fired over the sexcapades. So basically, I hate to say brown and black coalition, but interestingly enough, when it comes to who was fired over ruining Maegan Hall, you know what I'm saying? It was only the people who are not white. You know what I'm saying? Other cops kept their jobs, but were suspended. And according to them, they claim it was because those other cops were K-9 unit officers, but it's not. It's because they were white. You know what I'm saying? Earlier this month, Lavarge Police Chief Burrell Chip Davis was also fired. Hall claims, and I didn't know that's something that just came out. Hall claims the chief encouraged this behavior and shared in the pornography and sexual fantasy of mutually abusing Miss Hall with his trusted superior Ty McGowan. No one had a fantasy about her. This isn't the kind of woman that you have a fantasy about. This is the kind of woman that's just there, and if she's available and making herself available, then that's what happens. She gets used. Like, she's not the kind of woman that somebody sits around and thinks about having a romantic island fantasy with. Like, I'm sorry, like that's not what it is. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Hall claims the chief engaged this behavior and shared in the pornography and sexual fantasy of mutually abusing Miss Hall with his trusted supervisor, Ty McGowan. She said Davis once asked her to come into his office to dance for him, tried to get her to agree to lunch dates, and described her clothing as hot girl summer shit. And he probably did, based on how easy she was and how she threw herself at everybody else. A lot of times when men see a woman that just puts it out there for everybody, dudes are kind of like, okay, cool, like my turn. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably what that was. There wasn't any, you know what I'm saying? Like, this has to go down. And this lady is lying in order to try to save face. And this is really irritating because when women are ashamed like this, when women do shameful acts like this, which is very common, you know what I'm saying? Women tend to do shameful acts like this, especially to hurt the feelings of their husband if they're upset or if they, you know, are angry or something like that. Women will super bust it down. And when you find out, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times dudes will be extremely upset or extremely hurt. But then if the guy is a super simp and wants to try to save the relationship, which this relationship is beyond saving, but her husband is a super simp, so he wants to try to save the relationship. Saving that relationship comes with a period of terms and conditions and a little bit of cuckolding. You know what I'm saying? And so he's probably like, yeah, you gotta do a purge and you gotta get rid of any kind of relationship with these people, and you have to save face. I'm not gonna have anybody out here thinking that my woman is a nasty disgrace. So what I'm gonna need you to do is make sure that everybody knows that you were taken advantage of, that you didn't just do this on your own. Like, you're not that big of a hoe. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, in order to maintain the appearance of a marriage, she's gonna be like, yeah, you know, I got you. I'll do this. You know what I'm saying? The lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court in the Middle District of Tennessee names the city of Lavarge, Powell, McGowan, and Davis as defendants. It seeks an unspecified amount in damages for lost wages, medical expenses, mental suffering, emotional distress, and reputational harm. She harmed her own reputation, and she needs to be accountable for it. A spokeswoman for Lavargne declined to comment on Tuesday and told the Post that the city does not comment on pending litigation. All right. So we've done lots of videos about Officer Maegan Hall. She's a bad girl gone worse. And now she's a bad girl gone Karen. And my question is, what do you guys think about this? I hate to say this, but if you ask me, I think that they're actually going to settle. And I think that she's going to get the money. Because society just will not allow this PC woman, or very many PC women, to be held accountable. And the fact that Powell was in a position of power, for one, he should have acted more responsibly. But for two, when you're a black man in a position of power, especially when you're dealing with a PC woman, you're automatically guilty. TJ Holmes wasn't even in a position of power. He was a co-host. Amy Roebuck isn't even like Maegan Hall. She never came out and said that TJ Holmes groomed her. But the media took up for that one on their own and called him a predator. So what we're seeing is the same pattern of what we always see. This PC woman is not responsible for her thottery. And as a result, Maegan Hall has joined the Karen force. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Share this video out to all of your followers. Watch it all the way through to the end. And I will catch you all on the next one. All right? Peace.